Welcome back, folks. I'm Jake Ellenbogen. He is Gary Sheffield Jr. This is Yankees Unloaded, and it is a fat episode, just like stuffed with stuff we got to get to you guys because a lot of stuff went down. First off, big thing, right? The Yankees win 4-2 against the Orioles, a team that just could not stop winning no matter if the Yankees won or lost. The Yankees gained a game today on the Orioles, which is a big deal. This is a team that was beating them 3-1 in the series so far this year. You know, the Yankees lost 3 out of the 4 in the first game, their series in Baltimore. And now, you only get so many games against these teams, and the Yankees are now 1.5 games above, or not 1.5, 2.5 games above Baltimore. So that's good. Gary, we got a lot to touch on, so let's not waste any bit. Let's just go right into Aaron Judge. I know Ben Rice, we're going to get to that. We're very excited about Ben Rice and Agustin Ramirez getting called up to AAA. We'll touch on
We love that.
We'd love it. But Aaron Judge is the best player in the world, okay? And Aaron Judge left this game due to a hit by pitch, which we talked about, over text. I don't think you and I cared whether or not he did on purpose. I thought just the fact that we're talking about the best player in the world, the captain of the New York Yankees, getting hit like that, not long after, actually it was the next inning, right? The next inning after that whole thing with Juan Soto going to third and the third baseman leaves the game. It's kind of a bang play. I once again think they don't protect runners as much as they protect fielders. That's just me. But he left the game, essentially. Make a long story short, Baltimore lost their third baseman, Westberg. He leaves the game. Urias comes in. The next half inning, we see Aaron Judge thrown at, which I think a lot of people assumed was retaliation. Regardless, we don't care. Gary, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, what was so funny about it was that I guess you can say the lack of care from Orioles fans, and of course we mean Twitter, which really doesn't mean much. But of course, when you see a play like that with Juan Soto at third base and it takes their third baseman out of the game, and then Urias has to come in and play for him, obviously that sucks, right? It's just not good because we want to see these teams at full strength. But when it comes to Aaron Judge and throwing inside, you're going to have different opinions on this. Some people are going to think it was on purpose, right? And they think it's completely obvious that was the case. And then me, on the other hand, I just think that Albert Suarez is just not a good enough pitcher to be pitching inside. That's my take on it. I do not think it was on purpose. I don't think they're trying to take Aaron Judge out the game. I don't think any of these things. But I'll tell you one thing. It doesn't matter. Because honestly, it reminds me a ton. Remember when Mike Fiers hit Giancarlo Stanton, who was, I believe he was Giancarlo at that time. When Mike Fiers hit Giancarlo in the face, when that happened and they had to pull Giancarlo off the field via stretcher, when Stanton came back to the field of play, if you remember, he was thrown inside on again from Mike Fiers. It wasn't on purpose. He wasn't trying to injure the 2017 MVP of the National League. He was trying to establish the inner half of the plate. But here's where my take is. If you can't throw it inside without drilling me, who's on an MVP campaign, your ass shouldn't be throwing in there, period. That's my take on it. You're not a good enough pitcher to put me in jeopardy, to put my health in jeopardy, to put this team's opportunity to win a World Series in jeopardy. And that right there is what the Yankees were so frustrated about. And when people were saying that, well, CC Sabathia or Pedro Martinez or all these different pitchers from the past, they would have retaliated. They would have established themselves to get back at the Orioles about what happened with Aaron Judge. But I'll tell you this, and Jake, I actually texted this to you when it happened. The Yankees had to make sure they won this game. All these games matter. Once the game was in, like, when we're talking about the game's over, now the Yankees feel like they can get their lick in. But everyone thought that the Yankees were going to show up and Nestor Cortes is just going to drill the next hitter or wait for Rauschman or Mountcastle to get up there or Henderson and then just fire away, right? But you saw in the ninth inning with Clay Holmes, and we'll talk about him a little bit later in the show, how tight these games are, how good these teams are. A pitch or two away, and it goes from 4-0 to 4-2, could be 4-3, 4-4. these teams know the margins are just tiny, right? So it's difficult to pick your spots for retaliation in situations like this, as heated as it was, because Jake, for anyone that was on Twitter, and I was on Twitter during this game, it was heated. Yankees and Orioles fans were pissed off. Everyone, I don't think anybody enjoyed this game today. It was just uglier than hell. And I was glad to leave this game with a win.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think just kind of explain my thought process is I always I love my analogies, but I think of it in terms of what you're talking about, throwing inside, not being able to do that. It's kind of the same thing, like in NASCAR. A lot of guys,
Yes.
they like to play it, they're aggressive drivers. They like to play bump and run. They like to really push the driver in front of them and be like, hey, get out of my way. And, sometimes, I don't know if you ever watched NASCAR before, there's a guy by the name of Ricky Stenhouse. They call Wreck-It Ricky Stenhouse for a reason. He does that all the time. And then he gets upset when people retaliate against him. It's like, you have a nickname, right? And
or how about Danica Patrick, huh?
Yeah, I mean, that's how I feel, though, about what you just said is like, you have to know that you can do it without, because I mean, technically there are no rules in NASCAR about wrecking guys on purpose. There are no rules on it, believe it or not. But you're going to get people wanting to wreck you now. Everybody's going to be going after you. And it's the same thing with Suarez. Now, what I will say about this, I always kind of felt like you can't just go entirely by whoever's on the mound and whatnot, or not on the mound, but at the plate, and how their reaction is that justifies how you react. But when you talk about Aaron Judge, who's a classy guy, doesn't typically get, pissed off or anything like that. Gary, he was debating, and I saw a tweet that said it perfectly. He was debating getting thrown out for the second time in his career. And that, gave me some justification about why I was so frustrated, because I'm like, clearly Aaron Judge saw something with that. And you don't see him. He gets plunked, but you don't see him look like that. He looked pissed, okay?
Yeah.
And he ended up going over to first and everything, whatever. But then it happened with Gleyber Torres. And I want to say this, it's a different pitcher, and I get that, it's a baseball play and all that. But I also want to say that is, to me, just like a late hit in football. Not all late hits in football on a quarterback are going to be meant to necessarily injure the quarterback, take him out of the game. Sometimes it's just you don't hear the whistle and boom, late hit, right? Well, regardless, I want my offensive line, I want my running back, my wide receiver, whoever, I want them to step up and be like, hey, that's our guy. Okay, you could end our season. We have 16, 17 games, and you knock him out, and we're not winning a Super Bowl. How is that any different than what we're talking about with Aaron Judge? If you knocked out Aaron Judge, say he had one of those hamate bone injuries or something like really bad where it just lingers the rest of the year.
Ruined our season, man.
It ruins the season. And by the way, this is also one thing I want to say, because people will be like, I had this on Twitter. Well, Jake, Dodgers fans weren't complaining when it happened to Mookie Betts. Well, hey, Nimrod, genius, whatever you want to say. The Royals don't play in the NL. There's no reason for the Royals to do that to the Dodgers.
There's no storyline there.
There's none.
The Royals,
the
you don't
Yankees
think about the Dodgers.
And Orioles, you have something there. And you had a play earlier in the game. Okay, there was no play leading up to the Mookie Betts hit, right? This is different. So yes, I think people need to understand that, first off, Oriole fans have no reason to be upset. I mean, they got the out. The guy who got hurt at third, that was an actual baseball play. And by the way, this is why runners need to be protected more. Because Juan Soto, you have Jason La Canfora, who's not even a good reporter anyway for the NFL, but he's coming out and saying that Juan Soto should be hitting the ribs, and he needs to pay, and Aaron Judge deserves it and all it. Yeah, normal like credentialed reporter stuff. But what I will say, Gary, is this: Juan Soto, by trying to abide by the rules instead of just trucking right through, because he slows down on the rolling grounder. If we protected the runners more, then this doesn't even happen. That was the irony. He ended up like having that collision because he had to slow down because the third baseman comes into his path. And then people are like, well, Gunnar Henderson is backing up the third baseman in case the ball goes by. Okay, well, Gunnar Henderson is in the way because if I can't go to this side and you're saying if I step on the grass, I'm out of the baseline, then what the hell am I supposed to do as a runner? And yet
and
we
also Jake,
continue to
in
see
terms
this
of
issue.
right, but in terms of intentionality, like what the intentions are, because that's really what Baltimore fans were upset about. They were upset about the intentions of Juan Soto being malicious.
I know.
Okay. Well, who came into this game thinking, wow, can't wait to watch Jordan Westburg and the Baltimore Orioles? We weren't thinking about him.
No.
Juan Soto, Aaron Judge, Aaron Boone, no one on the staff, none of us podcasters were thinking about Jordan Westburg coming into this game. We were thinking of Gunnar Henderson, who's got 22 homers. We were thinking about Adley Rutschman, who's going to be starting at the All-Star game. Those are the key cogs of your offense. We didn't come into this game thinking, you know what would really help our chances today? Let's go injure Jordan Westburg. No one's thinking about Jordan Westburg. I know no one's saying this about trying to diagnose this play, but it is what it is, okay? Just as people are not trying to injure Anthony Rizzo at first base, it's Anthony Rizzo, okay? He's not the key to this organization. So when you're talking about protecting players, it's going to be the best players on your team. Aren't you? I mean, can't we admit here, you would get more frustrated to see Shohei Ohtani be thrown at than you would Gavin Lux.
Yeah, of course.
Doesn't mean Gavin Lux is a bum. It doesn't mean that. Gavin Lux is a good player in this league. He's an up-and-coming guy, but it's not Shohei Ohtani. And that's what we're talking about here. We're talking about pitching inside to the player who is going to win the AL MVP. Thankfully, we got an update on it. X-rays have been negative, which is amazing. I mean, I cannot express to you, Jake, how thankful I am that this is the case, because it kind of felt this way. Like I had this feeling after that injury, the same I did with Juan Soto when they were talking about a forearm. I was just like, I got a sick feeling to my stomach, because we have to remember, Jake, there's context here. We're all Yankees fans. The people who are watching this show, we're going to have some Orioles fans, right? Some stragglers, which is great. We're happy they're here. But Yankees fans mainly, they're dealing with the consequence. I would say the context of us just getting hurt all the time. We always get hurt, doesn't it? It seems that way, that the Yankees, you can say they have bad luck. I don't believe in bad luck. I just think in general, you get good breaks, you get bad breaks, and then when you get a good one, you got to capitalize. The Yankees haven't capitalized on their good breaks, and the rest of the time, it just feels like we're getting picked on from the injury bug, and it's true. It seems like we're getting hurt all the time, and when I see Aaron Judge be thrown inside on, I was pissed off. My blood pressure was 300 this whole game. I was pissed off. I'm going to be honest with you.
It was definitely not one of those games that I could sit back and enjoy the rivalry. I definitely was like annoyed. Like I started looking at the Orioles, like kind of how I feel about the Detroit Lions. You know, it's like, oh, I remember when you were, garbage, and now all of a sudden you're great. Now you got all these fans who are like, and not every Orioles fan's like this. And again, Twitter, that doesn't really exist, but you see it, Gary. You know what I'm talking about. I've explained it before with the Lions fans. I've explained it now I'm explaining it with the Orioles. And it just felt like I saw comments on your post and it was like, we'll tell Judge to back off the plate then. We'll be throwing at Soto next. It's
what stupid take that is.
Oh my goodness. Like,
get off the plate. Are you high? First off, yes, get off Albert Suarez's plate. Go ask the 95% of baseball fans who the hell Albert Suarez is. We don't know who you are, bro. No. We have no idea who you are. You're a 34-year-old. I'm a podcaster, so I know who you are, right? I've looked into all this shit. No one knows who you are. So when we're talking about get off of his plate, no one knows who his is. We don't know who he is.
Just like, that's Aaron if you ask 95% of baseball fans, they'd be like, who's Jordan Westburg?
Who? And this is a good player. This is someone with good numbers. Jordan Westburg's hitting 277, 11 homers. He's driven in 42. We're talking about before the All-Star break. These are great numbers. He's hitting leadoff for one of the best offensive teams in the league. There's a reason they're 2.5 games behind us. Okay.
But Juan Soto definitely tried to injure him.
Yeah. He went out of his way because Jordan Westburg is the guy we need off the field. I mean,
and actually, think about that. I mean, when you think about it, it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, runners were on and Soto was on his way to third. And, instead of, potentially putting yourself in a position to score runs in a, really small margin for error type of series against the Orioles, I think he just more than likely would rather go out there and injured their third baseman, who 95% of fans don't even know. That, to me, is what Juan Soto was definitely trying to do. Idiotic. Anyway, so we talked about Judge. We talked about the hit by pitch. We talked about his x-rays being negative. That will be probably in the title of the video. So even though we didn't immediately come out with x-rays are negative, people will be able to see that. But Ben Rice made his debut today, and I thought we saw some really good stuff. First two pitches, I believe it was Joe Girardi that came up. He's excited. Butterflies. Like he's very excited at the plate. Little erratic in those first two cuts, two breaking balls outside the zone, chases them. And then somehow, he's able to take a step back a little bit. Those are thrown again. He does not swing. You're thinking, okay, he's going to go up there. Like, every now and then you'll see Oswaldo Cabrera have one of those at bats where he's just trying to hit a home run, swings 3 straight times.
We all love those.
Yeah. But Ben Rice teased us with that because the first two he did that. And then he came back and showed some discipline. He did not end up with, his first hit of his career in the first at bat. His second at bat he did. And I thought the first at bat was kind of a big deal because I think it showed some plate discipline that we were hoping he was going to have, but did not know if he was going to have, in the MLB. Because the bottom line is, if you look at the guy's stats, pound for pound, especially in AAA, this is one of the best hitting minor league baseball players the Yankees have had in years.
100%.
He's been unbelievable. I know there are people that are upset that TJ Rumfield, who's actually playing first base, who's hitting over 300, wasn't brought up. And now all the hype is on Ben Rice. But guys, TJ Rumfield will have his moment, and he is a good player. But the thing about Ben Rice is he offers the pop. He offers just the fact that he's been doing this for a while now, and the Yankees value pop. And another thing, he made himself available. People forget this. He caught Garrett Cole's double A, okay? His double A start that he made, his rehab start.
Which is an insane assignment, by the way.
Yeah, he caught that and then was immediately promoted to AAA and was starting at catcher, and he made himself available and was willing to play first. And this is impressive, Gary, because I want to really touch on this. I don't think a lot of people realize this. I know he's 25. Everyone thinks, well, Judge took forever to get to the major leagues. He was 25. This is different, okay? And I want to give Cashman a lot of credit here because this is a 23-year-old baseball player, essentially. He's 25, but 2 of those years, he basically lost development-wise due to COVID. And we forget about that. We see it in the drafts. We talk about it all the time. It's why, NFL draft, we were joking off air, like there are 26-year-old quarterbacks getting drafted in the first round because it's been widely accepted. But I think the fans kind of forget. And it's easy to forget because it's a time that flew by. It feels like we didn't even live those 2 years or whatever. It just flew by, and most people don't remember that. But the reality is, Ben Rice missed 2 valuable seasons of development, and it's not just him. Agustin Ramirez, who just got promoted to AAA, also did, and a bunch of other minor leaguers, right? But seeing that Ben Rice was called up when he wasn't even on the 40-man roster, was just added to AAA 11 games ago. You're telling me 11 games? 11 games, and they're like, you know what? Let it rip. And I love that aggression. I think this is the Yankees turning over, not a new leaf. They're somewhat going back to the Buck Showalter days with the Yankees.
I like
when
that.
They brought all those guys up, the core 4 and everything. I think they're really starting to look at their farm system as, hey, they'll probably trade a lot of these guys. I'm not going to be surprised. But the guys like Ben Rice, I think they're really giving him an opportunity. And this is a big month coming up, and a month and a plus for Ben Rice, where if he can prove he's the first baseman, at least of now, and can help them win a ring, he's not going anywhere at the deadline.
Yeah, but the Yankees never used to do this because you bring up the Showalter Yankees and all that stuff. And honestly, great comparison. But I'll say this. The Yankees used to just sit remember we used to talk about where's Estevan Florial? Where are these guys? Right?
Yeah.
They're hitting 290 in AAA. Do you not believe in them? Are we supposed to believe in them? Are these just trade chips? The Yankees are talking about guys like Ben Rice, right, and Ramirez and Dominguez down below, but they're not just talking about them. They're actually calling them up, and they're playing those guys, right? They're putting them in the fire. This is something the Yankees haven't done. They've never done this. They've always just talked about their prospects, and then they show up at the deadline saying how valuable these guys should be, and then no one gives a shit. And they don't give us the guy that we really want, who's a proven veteran. The Yankees are doing it in a different way. And I'll say this about Ben Rice, and this is the most important thing in my opinion. People have been saying this to me on Twitter, right? In real life, if I'm at a stadium, people say the Yankees need to get more athletic. You look up and down this team, we're a great team. Volpe's super athletic at the top of the lineup. But if you look at the rest of the team, you see guys like Soto, Judge, right? Grisham, Verdugo, Stanton. You look at those guys and you say, ball in the gap, they're not scoring. A lot of those guys are not a threat on the base pass. It's more station to station. Doesn't mean they're a bad team. Doesn't mean they're not a great offense. They are. But there's certain ways this team could have gotten better in its athleticism. Ben Rice is the athleticism. He's a guy who can help in that department. And if the Yankees are getting more athletic, it just gives them more avenues to win a game. And I'll tell you this, Ben Rice is significantly more athletic than Anthony Rizzo at this stage of his career. It helps. Okay. It doesn't necessarily mean Ben Rice is ready for a pennant race or any of that his rookie year. But I'll tell you this right now. You cannot knock the Yankees for actually putting faith in a player who wasn't on the 40-man and they just called him up. Okay. Because when you tell me you believe in a guy, don't tell me, show me. The Yankees are showing you right now what they're about. And I'll say this about Ben Rice in terms of his athleticism to kind of bring this home. He had double-digit stolen bases last year. This is a guy who's a catcher. Okay. Austin Wells, another super athletic guy. So when you complain about the Yankees' lack of speed or their inability to commit to maybe dropping down a bunt and taking what the defense gives you, players like this will try and do those things. It makes the Yankees better. Not all players have to be like this because you still need the big sexy guys like Aaron Judge and Juan Soto hitting homers and all the fun stuff, taking all the accolades. But the other guys can do that. Ben Rice doing the ugly stuff that I talked about Gleyber Torres yesterday. I said Gleyber Torres is not doing the ugly stuff. Guys like Ben Rice will do the ugly stuff. Love what he did today. Obviously, wasn't a crazy day, 1 for 4, but he didn't strike out at all. Yankees struck out 3 times today. We walked 6 times. It's a totally different brand of baseball. I know it's not like the craziest thing in the world. Wasn't the best day offensively for us, but when was the last time you saw the Yankees strike out 3 times? It's just, it's a totally different brand, and it works.
I thought Brad Ausmus did a great job, too, because, I mean, Boone didn't come back until, like, the 7th inning. And another thing, I also wanted to give Ausmus credit for, when Gleyber Torres is hit, he was like, what the hell is going on here? Like, I like that because Boone absolutely would have, but I like that Ausmus had, like, the wherewithal and, all of that to actually step up and, defend his player. We already mentioned Agustin Ramirez going to AAA. That's something to monitor. Could he be traded? I mean, it's certainly a possibility. They're adding him to, boost his stock and everything. But I think there's also a possibility that it's him and it's Austin Wells. And we could be getting into an era where we're going to see more, split time catchers. I mean, it already seems like there's not, like, can you name top, 10 starting catchers off the top of your head where you're like, yeah, they're really good? Like,
not really. So do you really buy into the Yankees just like seeing yesterday as just a shit show for Trevino? Because it obviously was terrible.
Well, they made the Rice move because Rizzo got hurt, right? We know that. But they didn't have to move Agustin Ramirez up to they didn't have to move him up to AAA. They have Carlos Narvaez there, who is also playing well. He is their catcher. And Ben Rice, keep in mind, like he was playing first, he was catcher, he was DH. So like it wasn't like, oh, we have to move up and get a first baseman. And Agustin Ramirez has played first as well, to be fair. But it wasn't like they had to do that. So that, I don't want to read too much into it because it is just one day. It is just one thing. And he absolutely deserved to be. He was leading AA in home runs, by the way. He had like 17. Yeah. He's got a lot of pop. But
it seemed like those moves were corresponding. The timing is just
felt
ridiculous.
Like a little bit. It felt a little bit like, and I wouldn't be surprised. Narvaez is on the 40-man roster, as is Agustin Ramirez, by the way. So we're going to see. I mean, Trevino, I feel for him. I do, because I think he's hitting really well. And I think he's great defensively. It's just when you're talking about, which is a huge part of the game, the running game, and neutralizing that, his pop time, He just takes too long. And now that the Red Sox already put that on the map, other teams are going to try. And I mean, we saw it today against Austin Wells, although that was totally on Tonkin. Took forever, to throw the ball, didn't actually keep him honest. And then you have, of course, Mateo, who he's blazing fast, and he took
But that's
off and
also
took
one
second.
stolen base. We can deal with 1 or 2 stolen
Yeah,
bases.
no, you can deal with that.
Yeah, but like depending on the timing,
9
like, you don't want
though.
to give him up. Yeah, 9's a joke. Like that's like you're playing MLB The Show and your buddy doesn't know how to pick off. That's just
You're playing
not
MLB
baseball.
The Show, and I'm sorry if you're playing catcher and Road to the Show, and you give up 9 stolen bases, they're sending your ass to single A.
Yeah, you're not good.
Like
so like that's pretty much it.
I mean, think about it. When you're doing Road to the Show, if you get 3 home runs in the game, but if you get picked off, they're like, oh, we just moved you down to AAA. It's like, what?
Sounds about right.
Yeah, you know how the AI works. Nestor threw an absolute gem against the O's. We've been a little critical of Nestor, but the reality is having a game like this, first off, he needed to have this. But second, the Yankees needed this. Because we found out, Clay Holmes, and we'll talk about him a little bit, no lead is safe against the Orioles, as we've seen this year. No lead is safe against the Orioles when Clay Holmes hasn't pitched in a little bit, and he's had some time, which was a little concerning. I think that's why he even pitched tonight. Also, Hamilton went on the IL. We'll talk about that. But Cortez only gave up 5 hits in 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, no runs. Just absolutely superb against a lineup that is just so littered with talent and power and danger. And he did a really nice job of minimizing the damage. Now, he had help from his defense, but when you look at the way he pitched today, like that was huge. This was like a postseason game, whether people want to admit it or not. Like games against the Orioles, they matter. 4-2 win, that's like a postseason game. So huge performance from Nestor. They needed it. Clay Holmes, though, definitely concerning. I thought Luke Weaver pitched well. Michael Tonkin is a legend at this point. The legend of Michael Tonkin. What he's doing for the Yankees is kind of crazy. Just continues to, I mean, he looks disgusting, honestly. Like you wouldn't expect it. He just, again, people just look at him like he's a meme, but he goes out there on the hill and they just don't hit him. Like he doesn't give up
I'm confident in
runs.
saying that nobody predicted this. We knew
the Yankees didn't predict this.
No, the Yankees definitely thought, and I would assume that Matt Blake and Brian Cashman, he probably gives them a blueprint. These are the type of numbers I'm looking at. So with our advanced scouts, look at these numbers, right? Spin rate, usage on certain pitches. I want that sinker, cutter, slider combination. If a guy's got that, maybe we can have a fit here. So I think we all thought like maybe the Yankees are trying to squeeze the lemon here. I know I talk about that a lot, but Michael Tonkin, you just throw him on the Diamondbacks or you throw him, right? You throw him on the Rockies. His ERA is 4.90. Okay.
Yeah. He's got 0.77 with the Yankees.
Yeah. And nobody predicted this. I'm not going to sit up here on the air and lie to you guys and tell you, I didn't even think Tonkin would be productive in any way, shape, or form for even a short period of time. Okay.
No, we were laughing. We're like, why is this guy on the hill? He doesn't look like a Major League Baseball player.
I said this. Absolutely wrong about that. I'll put my hand up if no one else will. If everybody else is going to pretend that they knew Michael Tonkin would do this, by all means, do that. I can't say I'm on the air saying that, right? But I'll say this about Nestor Cortes and his entire start, because Nestor Cortes, I wouldn't say he was pitching bad. In general, like for the whole season, he's been pitching fine. Yeah. But what's so interesting about Nestor, I think we all agreed, based on his numbers in terms of his lack of pedigree when it comes to pitching for extended periods of time, giving us 150 plus innings and being the same pitcher in July as you are in August and September. Nestor Cortes hasn't shown he's able to sustain his success. So we really put him behind Garrett Cole, Carlos Rodon, Stroman, Schmidt, Heel, and Cody Poteet was been throwing excellent. The Yankees have been pushing him like an actual starter they believe in. And when you really consider what these other pitchers have done, I would just say Nestor Cortes was liked probably 6th most of any of those pitchers. That's the reason why we thought Nestor Cortes should have gone to the bullpen. But I'll say this, he came into this game, he doesn't miss a ton of bats, he piles up innings, and I expected Nestor Cortes to get hit today. Baltimore, it really hits well. This is a very good hitting team. They leave the ballpark. It's obvious. Look at the numbers. It's just ridiculous. So I think a lot of people expected Nestor to probably go 4 innings today, give up 3 or 4, and then it was going to be a bullpen show, and hopefully the Yankees could pull it out in an offensive game. Nestor Cortes pretty much established himself early in this game. He was locating his fastball, and he used his changeup a lot more today than we're actually used to. He threw like back-to-back changeups against Santander, who eventually got to Clay Holmes in the 9th inning, thankfully too late. By the way, that ball I think it's Santander, he hit it 1,000 miles an hour. That ball was absolutely torpedoed out to right field.
Such a bad pitch. It hung for an eternity.
When he actually hit it, because I'm in such denial as a Yankees fan when it comes to contact. When I see something on TV, my heart drops when I see contact too hard off of my team. As soon as I saw it, I said, how is my brain going to register that this is anything but an absolute rocket ship into right field? And then they turn around and I'm like, oh shit, that's way gone.
Yeah, it wasn't even close. It was so gone. I mean, just not a good pitch by Clay Holmes. But to your point, yes. I mean, he needed this, and if Nestor can continue to do this, then we could talk about the bullpen all we want, but Clark Schmidt just got put on the 60-day IL, which I don't want to overreact. It could be a move just because by him going there, it makes it easier to move guys on the 40 man, but it still is a little concerning. Rizzo, we already knew was going to the IL. Poteet and Hamilton did. What did I say in one of our shows about you have these good problems to have where you have too many of something, and it seems like just fate or whatever just gets in the way and just moves things around to make things just convenient. I mean, Poteet, now we're talking about him. Oh, you have 6, 7 starters, and then we see Clark Schmidt go on the IL, which opens up a spot, and now Poteet goes on the IL, which opens up a spot. So Cortez isn't going to have to see the bullpen, and who knows if he ever does, because Schmidt is going to be behind the 8 ball, and so is Poteet.
Well, it goes to show that's the reason no one throws 200 innings. This is why.
Yeah.
Guys get hurt every year. If you actually watch these pitchers, if you watch Nestor Cortes, Carlos Rodon, Marcus Stroman, Clark Schmidt, Luis Gil, every single one of these pitchers, none of them are likely to throw 200 innings. The only reason, it's not because the Yankees don't leave them on the mound long enough. It's because at some point in the season, they go down for 10 days. They go down for 3 weeks, right? And they're day to day. We have to skip a start. You don't understand how much goes into a season in terms of workload, pitching 200 innings, the way Corbin Burns, the way Garrett Cole does, right? So
yeah,
this is why we never should have even thought, and that's on us too, by the way, Jake. We should have never thought that we were just going to be 7 deep with 7 good starters. We should have known people are just dropping.
Thought that. We were just talking about what we are right then and there.
Technically, yes. Yeah.
But, Brew Baker, the guy they traded for, they gave up a really good prospect for, from the Pirates. He's being built up as a starter. That's interesting. I wouldn't have expected that. Does not mean they're going to put him in the rotation, but it means that they like him as the potential opener, long reliever, guy that could be an emergency starter. He and Scott Effross, yes, he still exists, are going on their rehab assignments. So they're going to be ramping that up. Effross is expected to be a high leverage guy down the stretch, which is what I was reading. I don't know if I want Effross in any high leverage situation personally, but good for him if he can figure it out. I'm rooting for him because I don't want his career to be like done. You know what I mean? I'm rooting for the guy. He's also a Yankee, so it only helps the Yankees if he does well. But I'm not overly eager to see him in a high leverage situation based on what we've seen with him in pinstripes. But Brubaker's really interesting to me because it makes me wonder if they're trying to do one of those Michael King things towards the end of the year with him. And we didn't get to see Michael King, obviously, in that role in a meaningful playoff game because they weren't that good last year. But Brubaker could be interesting. One last thing I want to say, Gary, and I mean, obviously, this is just kind of shouting up to the ceiling, I guess, in this case. No one's going to hear it, but it's I think it's ridiculous how small the rosters are in the major leagues. I really don't get it because I think it would really correct itself. Everyone's like, well, it adds like this whole like strategy element. Well, yeah, but here's the dumb thing about this. Ready for me to debunk all that strategy bullshit?
Let's hear
Well,
it.
because here's the thing. If a team wants a young prospect to get starting reps and they know they're not going to start in the major leagues, they're not going to bring them up. You know how I know that? Because that was what was happening with Jason Dominguez. So the idea that it's like, well, it just you stack the roster with your top prospects. No team is going to do that because if they don't think they're ready, they're not just going to have them as bench players and give them no starting reps. They're not going to get any better that way. So, I guess, Gary, my thing is, 26 is the roster now. I don't see the point of having a 40-man roster, to be honest with you, and only have access to it once, the call-ups, the late season call-ups happen, and it's
Yeah,
September.
it's once the season's a foregone conclusion. Oh, you're 23 games back? Yeah, go ahead and call up that dude.
It just seems so
big leaguer.
dumb.
Stupid. Yeah,
there's a lot of stupid things that baseball does. And that's one of those things where I know people are going to probably debate me on this. I don't really care about the purity or whatever the hell people are going to say. The reality is it's dumb across the board. I mean, I think basketball might be the only one that gets it. There's only 5 guys on a court at a time for a team, right? And now you can have up to 17 players on a roster. To me, that's fine. You don't need that many guys, right? Baseball, though, we talk all the time about, they don't have enough arms in the bullpen. How is that ever the case? And it's not just guys that are struggling, whatever. It's you don't have enough. I mean, how many times the bullpen budget? Why? There should be enough guys. I should be able to have 10 guys in the bullpen or 12 guys.
You know what I would say though about that bullpen thing? Because if they say okay, I want 10 guys in the bullpen, I'll say this. Major League Baseball knows that, yes, technically it's probably fair for us to just allow all these teams to call up the guys that they think are big league ready. Any of them that they think can help this big league roster, why not? Right? If they really want to get those reps, starters reps, then they'd send them down. But if you think that they can help this team, you call them up. And the only bite back that I give you here, and I agree with you overall, but the bite back that they would say is that people want to see offense. They want to see hitting. And there needs to be some level of emphasis on getting to a starter, getting his pitch count up. There's some strategy there. And when you see, you remember when we have Luis Gil go out there and Luis Gil will give up 3 runs in the first inning. Doesn't happen ever, but let's just say he does. Well, there's value in Gil getting through the 6th inning, grinding through that start, because it protects guys in the bullpen. It allows them to be better and more prepared later in the series versus another team with a lesser pitcher, someone that's not on Luis Gil's status. He might go out and give up 3 runs in the first inning and be gone to take a shower by the 3rd inning. Well, there's some type of impact for the other team's offense. It's more easy to score because they have less options. So I get what you're saying. Technically, they should have all the flexibility that you ever would want, but giving teams flexibility would turn baseball into this substitution game where guys are coming in and out of the game. And I totally understand what you're saying in terms of high level baseball, but I feel like in baseball, when we talk about hating openers in baseball, right? Teams just throw relievers out there. That's always been frustrating. In my opinion, you would just see more of it. Teams would just call up 6 guys that throw 100 miles an hour who really shouldn't be on the big league roster because you shouldn't have a spot for them, but they gave them a spot. So I kind of see both sides. I agree with both sides. I don't know if I would care either way.
It's not just bullpen though, and that's another thing. I think having a 6th man, an emergency starter that is capable of starting a game would also help. But also for you mentioned the offense being the reasoning or whatever. I mean, now Aaron Judge goes down, I have to put Trent Grisham in the game instead of maybe, if I was able to have an extended roster. Some of these guys playing in the Mexican Baseball League are on my roster right now, and people in the stands, would be like, oh, I know Luke Voigt, or I know Robinson Cano. Now, I'm not saying those are just guys that I was, going to throw out there, but Greg Bird even, we could go there. But my point, though, is that expanding the roster would make it so it's not just the bullpen game, but also like, yeah, if I go to a game and all of a sudden like Aaron Judge gets hurt like he did today, like I don't have to worry about Trent Grisham necessarily. Maybe a guy has a little bit more pop. Maybe, there's a guy that's going to have more contact. Like I have more options. The Yankees didn't put in Trent Grisham thinking this guy is the best guy on our bench, and he'd be the best guy on our bench even if we had 40 players on a roster.
Oh yeah, not at all. He's
They
the
put him
best
in
guy
because
that
he's
they're
the
comfortable
only guy
putting
that
on the big leagues.
Yeah, he's the only guy. So
Yep.
I feel like it would help guys like Everson Pereira more. He'd definitely be on a 40-man roster. Like if it was actually like you have to be in the major leagues, you can't just chill in AAA. I think he would be on that. Jason Dominguez would be on that. And again, you could say you can blame the team all you want. Like, okay, well, they could also bring him up, on the 26th. But I think it's just like, it seems ridiculous to me that it gets to the point where you can run out of guys to substitute because, say like, oh, this is a tough series. I need to have more bullpen guys. And because I only have 26 guys on a roster, and this is going to happen obviously in October, like I could run out of guys. Like I'm trying to just be a good manager. And in a close game, in a tough game, I'm going to use my pinch runner, my designated pinch runner, right? And now because I did that and I did a pinch hitter earlier, now I'm down to like one guy. I don't feel like there's a ton there, but it's just something that like annoys me, but it's not just baseball. I mean, I don't like the 53-man roster in football. I think it should be way bigger. I think hockey gets it right. I do. I think, basketball gets it right, but yeah, baseball and football I don't think get it right at all.
Well, Jake, to sum it up, your first, second, and third best outfielders are your starting outfielders. Your fourth, fifth, and sixth best outfielders are in the minor leagues because they're too good to miss out on long-term reps. That's what it is. That's essentially Major League Baseball is why in the hell, who's the fourth best outfielder that the Yankees could deploy right now? You could argue Jason Dominguez would be the third best outfielder in our entire organization behind Aaron Judge and Juan Soto. But due to contractually and kind of the way he's playing, Alex Verdugo is our starting left fielder. Our fourth best outfielder, there is no argument. There's no one else close. Jason Dominguez. He is not on the major league roster because there's not enough spots for him. And they feel like if we put him on the big leagues, he's not going to play enough to justify him being here. Plus, we've only got 26 roster spots. So why would we fill up this roster spot with a player of his magnitude who's not going to play but every other day? So that's essentially the situation that you're arguing against. And I see your point. I mean, I get it. And baseball probably will never change just because of the increase in velocity and hitters are just really struggling. It's harder than hell to hit. So I think they're trying to force you to get more out of the starting nine as opposed to what's going on elsewhere.
Yeah, and like I understand like the whole chess match, but I guess part of me is like the game is already so strategic. I feel like just creating strategy or like forced strategy it's kind of counterproductive, but yeah, I think that's going to do it. I do want to say something. One of the episodes, 2, maybe 3 of them ago, I did say, you already know where I'm going with this because you mentioned Dominguez. I did say that Jason Dominguez getting hurt in AAA would piss me off.
You did say that. I'm so glad you remember that.
Hurt. Yeah, and then he got freaking hurt. And look, people say I'm crazy. Not everybody. When I say people, it's really not like our loyal listeners, but like, people on Twitter. So I guess they don't really matter or exist for that matter. But like you had a couple of those bigger Yankee channels that were like overly pushing the narrative that like Jason Dominguez needs to stay in AAA, like weird, like just bizarre. And then he gets hurt and it's just crickets. And my biggest thing was it's no different than him getting hurt in a preseason game. And that's
pretty
what
much
because
he's too good to be where he's at. They're trying to sell us that Dominguez is on this rehab assignment. He's not. Jason Dominguez is not on the big league roster because the Yankees buy into what Alex Verdugo is doing in left field. And by all means, I completely agree. I think Verdugo is a player who's playing well enough that you do not pull him, at least in the short term. I would not pull him out of this roster at all. But having said that, this is the reason why, Jake, this is the reason you brought up moving Aaron Judge and getting him into the infield. We were just talking about Anthony Rizzo and his lack of, I guess you could say, durability, performance, athleticism, all types of reason that you would say Rizzo can come out of this lineup. You can move our best player to first base because, frankly, he's known for his bat. Of course, his glove's good. We need his bat in there. And it's helpful for his durability. But having said all of this, doing so allows your third best outfielder in your entire organization to actually get an opportunity to impact the Yankees in 2024. If we're in a win now opportunity, that so they say, then we would make these type of win now moves. And I'll say this, I'm not saying this from a standpoint of that Brian Cashman doesn't know what he's doing right now or Aaron Boone doesn't know what he's doing. No, we've been very positive about on both fronts. We have given them all the credit in the world this season about how they've run. Before we got on the show, I said, wow, it seems like we're actually running like the Dodgers, which is a compliment. It seems like the Yankees are kind of figuring out how to use their talent, not just in the big leagues, when to play those guys, where to play them, but also the minor leagues, when to call guys up, when to give them an opportunity. They seem to be doing it all well, but it does seem like there is a little tweak there where we can get one of our best players in the organization on the field. So I didn't want to see him in AAA. It feels like he's playing like backyard scrimmage games. I know it's AAA. It's still quality baseball, but it's not where Jason Dominguez is supposed to be. It's just not.
No, and hopefully he's okay. I think, everyone has kind of figured out by now. This is episode 63 of our show. And I think if you've been watching this for a while, or if you just started a week ago, one thing that you'll notice about us is we don't leave any stone unturned. So we may not get to it immediately in the show, but we like hitting everything that we can. And, sometimes it causes the show to go from, this is going to be a 20-minute show to, this is an hour-long show. But we really take pride in just covering everything possible because we know not every show is going to do that. And that's not why we do it. That's just us. We're really interested in the team from beyond the surface level. And so that's why we bring up things like Jason Dominguez being upset he's in AAA, getting hurt in AAA, while also giving them credit in the same show. It's not just a rant. It's not just upset. It's not just anger. It's, hey, this was annoying, but I also want to give him credit for this, this, and this. So you want to be fair at the end of the day. I think we do a decent enough job of that. But yeah, we covered a lot. I told you it was going to be a fat episode. It's not our longest, so that means we did a good job of covering it in, less than an hour.
So you're welcome that this wasn't an hour and 25.
Yeah, exactly. So we appreciate you guys. We're almost at 700 subscribers. Obviously, our big goal is 1,000. So, just slowly but surely, keep on coming on. But appreciate you guys. As always, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. Follow us on all social media at JK Bogan, at Gary Sheffield Jr., and at Yankees Unloaded. And we will see you guys in the next episode.
And like this video.